Sonny Barkats is going to give a dissertation about certain regulatory issues that we all face. Some of you know Sonny's a well-known guy in the Regulatory Legal Committee of New York and Wall Street. He's been honored by many of the associations. He's a real contributing member to NIBA, and we're very proud for him to be here today and giving us his words of wisdom. So, Sonny, with that.
Thank you. So usually I lecture about Reg A, Reg D, and all the ongoing regulations. I'm going to try something a little bit different. I'm going to give a very brief overview of Regulation A and where does it stand. Hopefully we'll see the SEC implementing Regulation A+ very soon. But I'd like to do a Q&A and see if we can add value to the audience. So first of all, just a brief reminder. Reg A, how many of you in the room know what Reg A is? Raise your hand. 1, 2. Okay, we have a huge crowd of 5 people that actually know what Reg A is, and that's impressive. So for those who don't know, Reg A was implemented in 1936, right after the big crash, and was established to allow capital formation. It started with $100,000 and the ability to solicit and raise money on a state-by-state basis, because blue skies preempt in that case, up to $100,000. Today, Reg A is up to $5 million, and what it allows issuers to do, Canadian and US-based companies, is to solicit up to $5 million from accredited and non-accredited investors with reviewed financials. No need to have audited. If you have them, you have to use them, but it's not required. And it's only for private companies, companies that are not subject to the ongoing reporting requirements under the SEC. Reg A has been very barely used, sorry. Pardon my French accent, by the way. If you don't understand, it's French. And I do shower. So, just to give you a few statistics that we had to dig. In 2012, Reg A raised about $35 million, while in the past 12 months, Reg D 506B raised $687 billion, and Reg D 506C raised $18 billion, $19 billion. So, I'm going back. I don't know if it's organized, but let's figure it out. Reg A allows an issuer to solicit up to $5 million. We've reviewed financials, accredited and non-accredited investors alike, and can use any medium, TV, radio, newspaper, for advertisement of its offering. The big hassle with the current regulation is that blue sky preempts, which means there is about 17 states that are merit states. So you have to deal with an examiner who has never run a business in his life, explaining the company why the company qualifies, whether the business is savvy or not, and discuss it with a state securities examiner, in addition to having run the filing with the SEC. The excitement right now is because Reg A, as enacted by Congress and to be implemented by the SEC, allows to do the following. It's called Reg A+. It has 2 tiers. It's an amendment of a subsection of the rule, and it allows to solicit up to 50, for those who don't understand, $50 million from accredited and non-accredited investors alike. It requires audited financials and an annual reporting with Edgar, and it also limits the amount that each investor can participate in. The limitations are similar to the crowdfunding rules, for those familiar with it. But in a nutshell, it's about 10% of your net worth. And the shares are free tradable. So we at JS Barkats, we are very excited about the opportunity to see those rules being implemented because we believe it's going to change the way the investment community raises capital, creates capital. We are at the crossroad of social media and capital formation for the first time in our history. And therefore, today, issuers can solicit non-accredited investors directly through YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and raise capital. The beauty of Reg A Plus is that it preempts blue sky. Now, obviously, there is a battle going on between the SEC and NASA. NASA is trying to force its will and get the states to have a say. It's all around the qualified purchaser definition. Congress didn't define it, made it very broad. NASA is trying to fight back and say, we know our citizen, and we believe the state is the most qualified entity, of course, the state, to decide who's qualified purchaser or not, which, in our view, doesn't make a lot of sense. The beauty of Reg A Plus is the preemption from blue sky, and the reason that there was not a lot of Reg A offerings filed so far is because it's a grueling process to go through two sets of examinations, one at the federal level with the Form 1A, and one with each state individually, especially when the cap is $5 million. But again, issuers can solicit anybody, accredited and unaccredited, which is the democratization of capitalism. Imagine that now non-accredited investors have the right to participate in an investment opportunity and have the right to be on an equal footing with an accredited investors. Yes, sir.
Do you still have restrictions on limitation per investor, Reg A Plus?
So on Reg A Plus you do.
What is the requirement imposed on a broker-dealer to ensure that investors follow the limitation?
So the truth of the matter is there is no set rules as to the broker-dealer's obligation to verify per se the same way you would have to verify the accreditation of an accredited investor under 506C. Under Reg A Plus, there is no set rule that tells you that you have to require or request from the investors to provide its financial statements or do a thorough investigation. A disclosure or a disclosure by the investors should suffice. Obviously, it is not implemented yet, so nobody knows what will happen, but there is no specific requirement beyond a disclosure statement provided by the investor.
Is that a legal opinion?
Well, it depends on how much you pay. So, what I'm suggesting is that we maybe take Q&As. Okay. The question was, is there any legal limitations on the participation of investors in Reg A Plus? And the answer is yes, and it's similar to crowdfunding limitations. And in a nutshell, it is about 10%, the higher of 10% of your net worth or income. You cannot participate in more than 10% of your the higher of your income, 10% of your net worth or income, excluding your primary residence. So what I'm suggesting is maybe we take some questions and we chit-chat about Reg A Plus. Richard?
We also talk about 506C?
Yes, we absolutely could. I can give it, you want me to give a summary of 506C? Basically 506C, so interestingly, statistically, there was only 18.7 billion raised under 506C this year versus almost 700 billion under 506B, which is the non-solicitation, ongoing, normal Reg D offerings that everybody knows about. So I was a little bit shocked because I thought, wow, what a great opportunity. 506C should allow now everybody to take their prospectus and solicit with no limitation as much money as they want from accredited investors only. Apparently, the old ways still dominate and bankers are still leveraging more 506B. Nonetheless, it has been only implemented a year ago. So, you know, $18.7 billion for a legislation that was recently implemented is not bad. It's really the general solicitation on the Reg D. You don't need audited financials, you don't have limitation on your raise, and there is no blue sky or whatever. Go ahead, Richard.
So let me say something, let me ask the question. So under 506B, right, we used to just call it 506, that's been around since 1933. 506C has been implemented since effectively December last year. Really, the rules just came out, so nothing was really gone before January. As you said, almost 19 billion was raised this year. But it seems that broker-dealers don't understand what the marketing limitations are. And the problem that we had when doing 506 offerings, we would only allow accredited investors anyway, because FINRA comes in, they do their examination, they want to see your file on the non-accredited investors, did you know your customer, why did you let them go into these deals? But the 506Cs is all accredited investors. So we felt, from a marketing standpoint, without the NDAs, it could be very interesting. My question is, what marketing avenues can you do for a 506C that you can't do for a 506B? And why aren't broker-dealers doing everything they can to fully solicit under general solicitation rules 506Cs? Why are they either afraid or why aren't more public companies? Because when you mention 506C, most of the raising for 506Cs have been for private companies. Why aren't more public companies and private companies?
Do I need to repeat the question? Because I'm lost right now. No. First of all, there is no general solicitation under 506. So you cannot advertise your ongoing offering as you know it now. It's only through connections and a database that your broker has that you can bring that deal to someone. So there is no general solicitation, which is, in my view, is a huge barrier to access accredited investors. One statistic that I read very recently shocked me. Did you know, and I'll get you the source if you need, that only 3% of the total accredited investors in the US participate in Reg D offerings? 3%, which goes against the democratization of capitalism and Reg A, because it means that there is a huge pool of rich guys that don't even know those offerings exist because nobody can solicit or pitch them on those offerings under the ongoing rules. So all the investment banking community is really talking to 3%, probably the same 3%, by the way, of investors, which is shocking to me. And those 3% do $1 trillion worth of deals. So imagine if we could tap into the remaining 97%. And that's really where your question lies. There is a huge pool of people that have never been approached by you guys that don't even know those deals exist. And now you can use any medium to pitch that deal. So consumer goods, real estate deals are easily approachable. People understand them. And if they are an accredited investor, they can participate. The big hurdle on 506C, which is the new rule, the amendment to the rule, is really to identify and verify the accreditation of the investor. Now, obviously, the Congress did not remove the reasonable assumption, meaning if somebody gave you papers and you did a very strong, just reasonable effort to identify them as an accredited investors and they were not, and they forged documents and they lied and whatever not, the banker is off the hook, as well as the issuer. Yet, everybody is very concerned, and that's my personal opinion in the investment banking community, that a number of non-real accredited investors would be appearing in one of those offerings that they solicited, and who knows what will happen with the regulators. So my opinion is everybody is waiting to see really how those deals are going to move forward. We, as a law firm, we tell our clients, listen, get an auditor or an accountant with a strong malpractice insurance to verify it for you and sign off, because I don't know any accredited investor that doesn't have his own accountant and would not want to disclose his financials, but yet would have an accountant that would sign an opinion that would, I would say, create another barrier to protect the bankers from liability. So that's what I would say on the 506C versus 506B. And I think in the next few years, we're going to see more and more of those deals. We have Marvin Loeb here, one of our firm clients, who's doing a 506C and soliciting capital right now up to $30 million for life sciences.
What can you do and what can't you do from a marketing standpoint of a 506C?
Well, you can do anything you want under 506C. Of course, the statute of fraud applies, et cetera, but you can advertise the way you want. There is no limits on the medium or the way you want to advertise.
You can advertise the offer at the side of a New York City bus going around.
Absolutely.
You can advertise it in New York Times.
Yes.
Wall Street Journal.
No doubt. You can advertise anywhere. You can even put it next to the go-go dancer on the top of the cab and have your offering right there, driving around the city and saying, come buy stock if you're an accredited investor at XYZ company. There is no time frame. Really, once your offering is ready, you can file it. You have obviously some blue sky filings. There is no review. And then you can start solicitation. You'll file Form D after you get the first subscription signed. And there is no need of any audited financials, reviewed financials, or any type of financial of that sort, though we recommend companies to have audited financials as it gives a little bit more credibility, and use a BD or an underwriter to help them with the offering. Credibility is everything. Therefore, to go back to Reg A, we believe Reg A is even a stronger exemption on the offering because Reg A is reviewed by the SEC. It has at least reviewed financials, and quite frankly, there is a limitation on the amount each investor can put in, so there is a level of protection.
Under Reg A plus, you can do a general solicitation up to $50 million.
Yes, you cannot go above 50 million, and obviously if you have a certain number of shareholders, you will have to become a reporting company.
You can do the same thing, advertise this guy as school plus 2% of the paper once the 1A is effective.
People leverage now YouTube and various portals like Circle Up and other portals to do those offerings. There is a site called Fundrise that you can look at. Fundrise allows to do some Reg A offerings as of the rule pre-amendment, and they raised $5 million for a real estate development project online from accredited and non-accredited investor on a state-by-state basis. They sometimes use a placement agent, sometimes it's self-underwritten. You can do the same with a Reg A+. Yes, Richard?
So we have a 506C that's pending right now. Let's say that we want to do a Reg A as well. Could we file for Reg A while the 506C is ongoing?
No. You cannot have two simultaneous offerings going on at the same time for the same company. The offerings have to be consolidated. You cannot do that. However, you could have a 506C going on for the holding company and a Reg A for the subsidiary. How come I don't represent you? Yes, sir.
When is the ruling supposed to be out on the plus? On the Reg A plus?
The implementation of the rules? So everybody in the legal community, some of my colleagues have different opinions. The rumor is the first or second quarter of 2015, the SEC should implement the 50 million Reg A plus offering. Nobody knows exactly when. I believe it as well. I think the latest, the second quarter. There is still a debate whether NASA will win their argument, which is negating Congress requirements for preemption of blue sky and state law, but we believe within the next 2 quarters. So if you're an issuer and you want to figure out alternative ways to raise capital, we would love to have a discussion with you. We're a New York-based law firm where we have done a bunch of those Reg A's with 22 lawyers, and we love coming up with creative ways to help bankers and issuers structure deals that make sense, now up to 5 million under Reg A, Reg D, 506Cs. Whatever it is, please be in touch and let us know. And if you have any questions after, I left on your desk 2 things. First of all, the comparative charter, you can look at it. It shows the different requirements under the different exemptions. And if you don't know me, I wrote the little book on the use of finders in the securities industry. If you're a banker, you need that. Thank you.